So let's take this equation, 2x plus 3y equals 6, and put it in the slope intercept format, which means I have to get the y alone. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the 2x. It's a positive 2x because it doesn't have any sign in front of it. So I have to do minus 2x on this side, which means I have to do negative 2x on the other side as well. So that'll give me 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. We like to always put the x term first, then the number first, second, even though you could have written it 6 minus 2x. The correct method is to have the x term first, and then divide everything by the 3, so that we end up with y equals negative 2/3 x, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. Which means that my slope in this case is negative 2/3. And my y-intercept, my b, is 2. So how do we graph this? And I'll show you how you do it on Delta Math as well. Suppose you want to do it on Delta Math. The first thing you do is you go to the b. When you're graphing something, the first thing you want to do is graph the y-intercept. So you go to 2 on the y-axis and you click here. That'll give you 1 point. Then you'll use your slope. Remember, the slope is rise over run. So in this case, since your slope is negative 2/3, it means from here, count down 2. Rise is negative 2, which means go down 2. So you count down 2, and then run 3, which means count 3 over, and click again. And then it will bring up this line. Does anybody have any question about that? Is that clear? Okay. So let's look at question number 2. Okay,
could you please give me a chance to take a picture?
Yeah, sure. You know what? While if you're copying it, in the meantime, I'll take attendance. So I won't be wasting time.
Okay, thank you.
What did I do with my attendance?
Professor, did you pin yourself?
What?
Did you pin yourself?
Can I pin myself? I am pinned. You have to pin me.
Okay.
Okay. I pin myself for the so the recording is usually on me. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we did these 2 problems. I want to just go through. Just see what I had. What were the other type of questions we had on Delta Math?
And the slope of parallel and perpendicular lines.
Okay, so let's talk about how can we find the slope of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. What does it mean?
After this one, I have one too, because I took a picture of it specifically.
Okay, you have in a specific one. Okay, so keep it, and that'll be the next question I do, okay? Let's just do a type of question from, let me see if I can. All right, let me make one up. I thought I could get one from Delta Math, but somehow it is not behaving. Oh, right. Okay, let's say I gave you a question like this. I give you this equation, 3x minus 5y equals 7. And let's say I asked you to find the slope of a line that's parallel to this line. What would the slope be of a line that's parallel to this line? And what would the slope of a line be if it was perpendicular to that line? Now let's remember what it means. Lines are parallel when their slopes are what? How do we know lines are parallel from slopes?
It would be the same.
Same slope.
The slopes are the same, right? They have the exact same slope. And how do we know when lines are parallel? I mean perpendicular. What tells us that lines are perpendicular?
Opposite slope.
Okay, Emma just typed in opposite reciprocals. Opposite, your slope has to be written as a fraction.
The internet's cutting out, so I couldn't.
And then what you have to do to get the perpendicular slope over
Can anyone else hear her?
Okay, I'm back. I got thrown off again. I'm sorry. I don't know. This is the first time I've had this, and I taught a whole term last term also, and I did not have a problem. Are we okay? Everybody back? Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we said in order for the lines to be perpendicular, what we have to do is take the fraction that is the slope of the original line, flip it over and switch its sign. Opposite reciprocals. Well, in order to do this, the first thing I have to do is take this equation that they gave me and figure out what the slope is. Okay, everybody figure out what the slope of, let's call this line A. I want everybody to take a minute and figure out what the slope of line A is. Once you get the slope, put it in the chat. Okay, I see Azia has a question, an answer. Okay, I see a few people. Oh, Kashira, I have you marked absent, so I'm gonna change that.
I'm sorry, miss. It's because my Wi-Fi, I'm having troubles with it.
Yeah. You and we're both having trouble. Okay. I see a bunch of people already have the answer. Let's see what I come up with. In order to find the slope of the line, I'm going to put this in the original equation in y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides to get the y alone, which will give me negative 5y equals negative 3x plus 7. And then I'm going to divide everything by negative 5. And simplify. This gives me y equals, now remember, when I have a negative over a negative, it becomes a positive. If we can reduce it further, we try, but 3 over 5, you can't reduce any further. So this becomes 3 over 5x, and this is minus 7 over 5. Usually the b comes out to be a whole number, but we really don't care. We don't need to care what the b is in this case, because all I asked you is to find the slope. So we know that the slope is 3 over 5, because the coefficient of the x, the number in front of the x, we don't include the x, is 3 over 5. Which means that when we want the slope of a parallel line, what will it be? What would the slope of a parallel line be?
The same thing.
It would be the same thing. So the slope of the parallel line would also be 3 over 5. What if they ask you not what is the slope of the parallel line? What is the slope of the perpendicular line? What would that have been?
The reciprocal of it.
Negative 5/3.
Right. So I have to flip this over. Since this one is positive, I have to make this one negative. And that's what you'd have to put in. If this is the type of question they're asking on the delta math. What is the slope of a parallel line? You would give 3 over 5. What is the slope of a perpendicular line? You'd write negative 5 over 3. Remember, you use that forward slash to put as the for the fraction. Are we okay now? Any questions about this? So that was the second type of question. The third type of question that was on the homework, let me go back to it, where it was a type of question where they gave you a picture of a line and they asked you to write the equation of the line in the slope-intercept form. So let's see if we can do something like that. The pictures on Delta Math are a bit more well, let's say they're just easier to work with because it's easier to count boxes. But let's do it here. Let's say x-axis, here's my y-axis. Let's go to 1, 2, 3. And let's go
Push the red button.
Okay, so I have 1 point over here and 1 point over here. And here's my y. And I want to write the equation of the y. Remember, we want to write the y equals mx plus b. Well, in this case, it's easy to tell what the b is because the b is where it's crossing the y-axis. It's crossing the y-axis at 1, 2, 3 down. The b, that means, has to be -3. The question is, how do I figure out the slope from the graph? Remember, slope means rise over run. So let's take this point that I know and go over to this point in 2 steps. We see to go in 2 steps. First, sometimes we have to go up, sometimes we have to go down. We're going up. From this point, we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which means I'm rising 6 because I went up. If I would have been going down, I would have said it was -6. Then I count across the run. So over here, I'm going 1, 2, 3. My run is 3. I'm going to the right, so it's positive. So it turns out that my slope came out to be 6/3. Now 6/3 can be reduced to 2. So my equation becomes y equals 2x minus 3. My slope is 2. Notice I could have gone over 2 over 1. It would also work. But specifically, it was easy to see what the slope is by counting the boxes, up or down for the rise, across for the run. So that was another type of question that we had on Delta Math. Okay, now before I go on to any other types of questions, does anybody have a question that they'd like to ask me? Somebody, I think, was it you, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk louder because I don't hear you?
Okay. The question was, write the equation of the line that passes through the points -8 and 6 and 0 and -6. Put your answer in fully reduced point slope form unless it's a vertical or horizontal line.
Okay, now, if you know, I looked at that and I decided I took that whole section out from the homework.
So
So
now when
that
we go
way-
to, like, if we go to finish the homework today, even though it's orange, we could finish it, right?
Yeah, you're gonna see that it's no longer a part of the homework.
Okay.
There are only 3 sections on today's homework. I realized I thought it was a certain type of problem, but when I read it carefully again, I just looked at, sometimes I look at one and I see, okay, so don't worry about that section. There is homework again for Thursday. Now, I want to cover, here's what I'd like to do. There's one topic that we have not covered that's part of this chapter. I would like to cover that right now. And after that, we should have about 35 or 40 minutes left to class. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you different types of problems, the types of problems you might see on the homework. And you should be on the lookout because over the weekend for next Tuesday, there is quiz number 2. Let me just say, I notice there are some people who have not done all the homeworks or have not done the quiz. If you can't access something, if you can't get to it anymore, I will open it up for you. Or even if you weren't so happy with your mark on the first quiz and you'd like to redo it, just send me an email and I will go into your Delta Math account and I will reset it so that you can take the test again. But you have to tell me that you want to do this. So if you haven't, you absolutely want to make sure that you've done all the quizzes on Delta Math. Sometime after next week, I'm going to be giving you a test on Blackboard, which is going to be in the format that's going to be the format of the midterm and the final, because you have to get used to taking those type of tests as well. So of course, I will let you know ahead of time when that will be given.
Professor,
Probably after we,
Professor.
yes, Stacia.
Yes, so
Yes, I'm listening.
I was doing my my assignment on Delta, but I didn't understand the third. Give me 1 minute, let me make sure. The one that says writing equations of lines. I did not understand that quite well, so I left that part out. So
The
could you
ones
like,
where they gave you a picture of the line, they asked you to like this?
yeah, they just gave me
There
the
was
graph.
one that they gave you the
Yeah.
graph?
Yeah, and they said write the
Did you see
equation
how
of
I
the
did
line in
this one?
fully simplified slope form.
Okay.
So did you see? First of all, I removed one section. I'm going to repeat this. There had been originally 4 different types of problems on the homework. I removed one of them because I didn't think it was appropriate. I thought it was too hard. You don't need to know how to do it.
Professor,
Yes.
when this is Kashira speaking,
Yeah.
when I was doing that section that you're talking about, when you removed it, and my connection was really bad. So when I went back to it, I thought it got deleted because of my connection, but then I realized it was you who removed it because I was in the middle of doing it.
Professor, I'm not seeing anything
I
removed
removed
from
it.
mine. I'm seeing all the 4. Yeah, I'm seeing all the 3 sections. I'm not seeing
Try,
anything.
no, there should be only 3.
No, there's
Try to refresh, do refresh.
No, there is only 3. There's the lines of equation and points and slopes, slopes and parallel and perpendicular lines, and writing equations of the line. That's the only thing that's there.
Right, there should be only 3 sections.
Yeah, I see it now. So could you like go over
This type of
Brilliant.
question again?
yes, because I'm seeing on it they gave me like 6 points. So I'm not really sure which one.
You only have to use, okay, here's what you do. They give you a lot of points. All you have to do is circle, let's say circle 1 point. Let's say there's another point over here. Just circle any 2 points.
Mhm.
Don't look at all 6 points. Just circle 2 points. And from there, figure out your slope. Let's say I figured I had, instead of circling this one and this one, I circled this one and this one. Then my slope would have been rise, 1, 2. My rise would have been 2. And my run would have been
Been
1. I would have gone over 1. It's easier to do it on the Delta Math because it's on a piece of graph paper so you can count. So then I still get my slope to be 2. You pick any 2 points for the slope. And from there you find your rise
thank
and
you.
run. Okay?
Can do
Yeah.
one of this, or are we just gonna go to the next step?
I don't got a pet, but I want a bandana. Yeah, it's dog.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
you
muting
know.
everybody because there's talking on the background. Again, you can always unmute yourself. Okay, so as I said, I wanted to do one other section. And that's something with, has to do with, really isn't anything very difficult. It's just a new way of writing things. Let's take our equation y equals, let's say I had y equals 2x minus 5. Notice whenever we're going to be graphing, usually our equations for graphing have two variables. They have an x variable and we have a y variable. They're two different letters in the equation. It doesn't, this happens to be what we call a linear equation because there are no exponents. If we wanted to, we could graph this because this is a line. It's a linear equation. Here's a different equation. Let's call this equation 1. Let's say an equation y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. It's an equation, but it's not a linear equation. I know it's not a linear equation because I see an x squared. I see an exponent there. We're going to learn how to graph these things a little later in the term. It's going to be something called a parabola. It doesn't matter what it's called. But again, it's got two variables. It has an x and a y. And if you think about it, if I give you, let's say, the value for x, let's say x equals 2 in this first equation, then you would have been able to figure out what y is because you just replace the x with 2 and you do 2 times 2 because my x is 2 minus 5, which would give me 4 minus 5 or negative 1. What did I do? I gave a value for x, and from the value of x, then I was able to find the value of y. We call x the independent, any number I want for x. Is it okay now? I see, I keep getting this. Okay, once we picked a value for x, then we can figure out what the value for y is. Again, x is independent. I can pick any number I want for x. But y is dependent. Y is called the dependent variable because once I pick my value for x, then my y is set up. As a matter of fact, we even write it that way because when we write a point 2 comma 1, that's telling us we picked the x to be 2, therefore the y has to be 1 because it has to fit into the equation. I could do the same thing with an equation over here. What if in equation 2, I pick x to be negative 3? Could we figure out what y is? It's not going to be a line, but we can see that we can figure out what the y is by replacing the x by negative 3. We would then get y equals 2 times negative 3 squared minus 3 times negative 3 plus 5. It's a little bit more work, but the idea is the same. Remember, in your order of operations, you first do the exponent. So I have a negative 3 squared, that's negative 3 times negative 3, which becomes a positive 9. This becomes then 2 times 9, which is 18. Exponent and then multiplication. Then we do the next multiplication. Negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9, plus 5. And in the end, we add it all together. 18 plus 9 is 27. 27 plus 5 is 32. What is this telling me? If I pick my x to be negative 3, the y has to turn out to be 32. the y is dependent on the value of x. Once I know what my x value is, then I can figure out what my y value is. And sometimes, instead of using a y variable, we use another type of notation. The notation is called functional notation. In this y equals 2x minus 5, instead of calling this second variable y, we write something that looks like this, an f with a parentheses x. In other words, the f, we call this, we don't say this f times x, we call it f of x. F of x is the same thing as y. It's just another name for y. Well, why would we do this? Well, number one, it tells us very clearly when we see f of x equaling 2x minus 5, that the independent variable is the x, and this f of x, this y, is the dependent variable. It's showing you f of x means f function of x. F depends on x. So it's just another way of specifying very clearly that what we have here is, even though there are two variables, once we figured out the value of one variable, once we decide what our x could be, there's nothing you can do with the y. The y is set. As a matter of fact, when we use this symbolism, f of x equal 2x minus 5, you might even see something that looks like this. Find f of negative 3. Well, what in the world am I saying, find f of negative 3? It doesn't mean that we're multiplying f times negative 3. F of negative 3 means wherever I have an x on my other side of my equation, we're going to replace that number, the x, by this number, negative 3. In other words, it's 5, which works out to be negative 6 minus 5, or negative 11. If I ask you, what is f of negative 3? Your answer is negative 11. Because when I take my equation and I put the x, in place of the x, I put the negative 3, the y, which is the f of x, is negative 11. In other words, on the graph, if the x point is negative 3, the y value is negative 11. The coordinates of the point would have to be negative 3, negative 11. I can even go a step further. Let's say take this equation. Y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. Let's look at that one. Now, I don't want to call that f of x, because f of x I call this one. So let's give it a different name. Usually, notice we could call them all y's, but when we're using this new functional notation, we can use different letters. Usually the letters we use for functions, most common is F, but then G and H are also commonly used. And I could say G of X instead of calling this y, let's call it g of x. I could say g of x is equal to two x squared minus 3x plus 5. Now let me ask you a question. What do you think I mean if I ask you to find g of -1? What does that mean? Anybody have any idea what I should do to find g of -1?
Yes, replace x by -1.
Right, which is what Emma wrote also. It means, and notice, since I wrote g, I know I have to go to this equation, whereas if I asked you f of -1, I'd know to go to this equation. It's really clear as to which equation I want you to use. G of -1 means go to the equation that's labeled g of x, and wherever I have an x, put a -1. So that'll be 2 times -1 squared minus 3 times -1 plus 5 and if I work it out, -1 squared is +1. So this is 2 times 1. The answer would be 10. 10 is what g of 1 is. What does that mean? It means in the equation, and it doesn't matter which equation I give you, it has to be written, instead of y equal, it has to be written with f of x or g of x. But all it means is take the number that's next to this letter, and wherever you have an x on the other side, replace the x with that number. Functions happen to be very important, especially when you get to calculus and pre-calculus. We're not going to really do much more than this in terms of functions. Try on your own. Let's say I wrote something like this. Here's my question. G of x, supposedly tell me, is equal to x minus 9 squared. Find g of 4. Let's see if everybody could do that. Anybody want to tell me what to do? Anybody have any idea what I should do here?
I don't think I'm right, so I don't want to do it.
Well, I'll tell you, okay. Well, I see Kashira wants to try it. So tell me, Kashira, can you tell us what you did?
Well, I replaced the the 4 in X and got
I went to my original function, and wherever I saw an X on the other side of the equation, instead of an X, I'm going to put a 4. So that's going to give us parentheses. I'm just replacing the X with 4. Okay, that was perfectly right. Then what did you do?
I plugged it in the calculator.
Okay, that's a good thing to do. She just stuck it into her calculator. She actually, and if you're sticking it into the calculator, you would do it exactly the way you see it. Parentheses, 4 minus 9, close parentheses, and then there's a square button.
X
It probably
25.
doesn't look like X squared, and it came out to be 25.
Or you could do 4 minus 9.
Right,
times
you could have done
5,
it. You could have
and do
figured out
5
what's inside of the parentheses first. How much is 4 minus 9?
negative 5.
Negative 5. And there's
Times
an
5
exponent on the outside. So what is that telling you to do?
to multiply 5 twice.
Right.
And you get
We're
the
going to
same
multiply the negative 5 times negative 5, and that's going to also give us 25. So you could have done it on your calculator. It would have been perfectly all right, but you get, and 25 is the right answer. Is this clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do just one more, and then we'll go back to our lines. Suppose I gave you something like this. This is a little bit harder. H of X is equal to 3x plus b form. It's called a linear function. Okay, here's what we want to find. I want to find h of a minus 2. Now this is the h of is not just a number, but a whole expression. This is read, find h of a minus 2. But the idea is the same. What should we do in our original equation? Think. Somebody give me an idea what they think we should do.
You have to plug that in, the a minus 2. So it'll be 3 parenthesis 8 minus 2 close parenthesis plus 2.
Right. You have to replace wherever I have an x, and I'm going to put a circle around the x, in place of the x. This is a replacement. This is say replace x with a minus 2. So what will that be? It'll be 3. Now I have to put this in parentheses because it's not just a single letter or number, it's a whole expression, but it doesn't matter. Plus 2. All I've done is replace the x by whatever is over here. Even if it's not just a regular number, even if it's an expression with letters, it's the same idea. Of course, usually when we have an expression like this, we try to simplify it. First, we'll use a distributor property, which will give us 3a minus 6 plus 2. And then the like terms are the negative 6 plus 2. So it's 3x minus 4. And this is your answer. This is not an equation that you go further. Your answer is 3a minus 4. If the answer to the question, what is h of a minus 2? It's 3a minus 4. Your question had a's in it, your answers will have a's in it as well. Don't set this equal to 0 or 1 or anything like this. It's not an equation. It's just a replacement. Okay, I'm going to give you one to try right now. And see if you come up with the right answer. Suppose I give you that f of x is equal to 2x squared plus 6x minus 1. And I ask you to find f of 2. I'm going to give you a minute to try that. We're going to replace in my original equation, wherever I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a 2. So it's going to be 2 times 2x, 2 squared, plus 6 times 2 minus 1. Now we have to be careful. You can, first of all, if you wanted to, you could, exactly the way you see it here, stick it into your calculator. It'll give you the right answer. But it's not so hard to do without a calculator. Remember, we do the exponent first. 2 squared is 4. And then we multiply the 2 times 4, which will give me 8. Then I'll do 6 times 2, so that's plus 12. And then that's minus 1. So 8 plus 12 is 20. 20 minus 1 is 19. So the answer to f of 2 is 19. Anybody get that answer? Let me see on the chat. Yeah, I do see some people did get. Emma, if you notice, since I had, this was not, didn't have an x in it, it was just a plain number. All I had to do is replace so I got a number as my answer. The only time I'll get an answer with an X or an A or anything is if the thing over here has an X. Otherwise, it should be just a regular number. Are we okay with this? Okay, now let me tell you that this is what is the end of chapter 2. I'm not stopping, I'm not ending class. I'm going to do some more problems. We're going to do more problems of the type that you're going to see on the Delta Math. I want you to try the Delta Math. There's going to be a new homework. I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to do some of the types of questions you're going to see on it. We'll spend some time on Thursday doing some new work. I think this is getting a little bit, and Friday is going to be a review day again. And then there will be a quiz again on Delta Math of the type of questions that we've been doing for this. It's going to be from chapter 2. So look at your homework so you'll have an idea of what you need to know. Thursday and Friday are going to be times where you can ask questions about the things. So let's look at some of the type of questions you might see. One type of question would be, what if I gave you a picture that looks like this? I'm giving you a picture of a line. Happens to be a line that goes straight across. What I'd like you to think about is, what is the equation of the line? And what is the slope of the line? This is one of our special lines. It's a horizontal line. What is its slope? What is its equation? Anybody have an answer for me?
The slope is 0.
Okay, so the first thing I see, two people told me the slope of this line is 0. Anytime you have a line that is horizontal, its slope is going to be,
Wait, I thought it was 4.
oh, wait, Emma, you are, first of all, the slope is 0. And that's what you said. The slope is 0. I don't know, we're getting. Okay. So the equation, but what's the equation? And Emma, you're 100% correct. To write the equation of the line, it's y equals 4. So notice there were two questions here. One question was, what was the slope of the line? And the second question was, what was the equation of the line? And a horizontal line has an equation y equals, it doesn't have any x's. We're getting some interference, so I'm going to mute everybody again. Sorry, I'm so busy with this. And if I ask you what is the slope of the line, the answer is 0. Any line, and vice versa, any line who have a slope of 0 has to be a horizontal line. And its equation has to be y equals a number. And the number is, again, you just count up to where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, let's see if I had another special line. What if I gave you a picture like this? Here's my line now. Instead of being a horizontal line, it's a vertical line. What is the slope again? And what is the equation? These are usually the two things that we want to know about lines. Very often we're interested in the slope . Is there something going on with the chat that I don't understand?
Yes, I think somebody trying to hack. We had this problem yesterday in English class. Not English class, bio class. Yesterday, and it looked like it's the same thing coming on now.
Somebody, which is interesting because we do have a password, a passcode, which means somebody gave somebody a passcode.
Could be, because we have that same thing yesterday and it's coming on now.
Okay, I think right now, let's just ignore the chat. Everybody just ignore the chat. There's an, okay, and I really should have a way of, okay.
All right, so the y
I'm sorry, I have to tell you, please do not, I'm gonna have to change the passcode for everybody. I will send it out. The only thing I'll change is the passcode, but if this happens again, it means somebody here is giving out the.
Ma'am, Miss, sorry, Professor, could we like, is it possible for us to get like a personal passcode, or it just has to be one code? So you will know what happened, because this, This makes no sense.
I can't hear what you're saying, Stacia, you have to talk louder.
Yeah, I was saying, like, is it possible for us to get like a personal passcode to enter your class? Because this, what is happening in the chat makes no sense.
I'm gonna change it so it's just for this class.
Okay.
Professor, I don't know why my name is brought up, but my mic wasn't even working for like the last week. So I don't understand how.
I don't know
why my name is being brought up there.
So let's just ignore it for now. Just ignore it. It doesn't, but I'm going to tell everybody, I'm going to send you out an email with, I'm going to change our passcode and
Okay.
I'm going to, okay? I can't do it now, but I'll do it for tomorrow, for Thursday. And right now, just ignore what's going on. Okay, we're talking about a vertical line. Now, vertical line is one that goes straight up and down. Who wants to tell me what they think a vertical line is? What slope does it have? What kind of slope does a vertical line have?
Undefined.
Right. This is the type of line that anytime they talk about a line where the slope is undefined, or sometimes the term is used, does not exist. DNE does not exist. If we want to, it's not DNA, it's DNE. Does not exist or undefined. That's the technical term. It means that you're talking about a line that goes straight up and down. It's a vertical line. It's the only type of line that does not have a slope. If I give you a question, I say, oh, I have a line, its slope is undefined. You'll know exactly what that line looks like. You'll know that the line has to be one that goes straight up and down. What is the equation of this line? Anybody want to tell me what that goes? Here's my x-axis, here's my y-axis. What would the equation be? Anybody?
Okay. Would it be y equals, can you do undefined in an equation? DNE?
Undefined isn't a real number. I can't stick it into an equation.
X equals.
Yeah, is somebody saying it?
X equals negative 2.
Right. Just like the equation of a horizontal line only has a y and has no x, when you're talking about a vertical line, the equation only has an x and it doesn't have any y. And the x is, well, you count where it is across the x-axis. It's at, here's the origin, it's 1, 2, 3 to the left. So my equation is x equals -3. These are not our common lines, but actually they're the easiest ones to deal with, because when you're talking about a horizontal line, one that goes across, all you're going to have is a y in that equation, y equals. And when you're talking about a line that goes straight up and down, a vertical line, all you're going to have in that equation is an x, no y's, just x. Neither of these are in the y equals mx plus b form because they're different kinds of lines. Okay, let's do just one more question. What if I gave you a question like this? Let's talk about, now we're talking about slant lines, irregular slant lines. I'm going to do one more problem. I want to write the equation that is parallel to the line, 2x minus 3y equals 9, and and passes through the point and goes through the point. -9. -9, actually, -9, 1. Okay, how do we write the equation of a line that's either parallel or perpendicular? How do we write equations of lines? And I'm going to do this because we really don't have that much time. But we remember that when we want to write an equation of a line, the general equation, unless they tell us it's a vertical line or a horizontal line, then the general equation of the line is y equals mx plus b. And the first thing we're interested in finding is the m, the slope of the line. How do we find the slope of the line? Then we'll worry about the b. But let's first deal with the m, the slope. And I have to look at the original example, and the clue that I have to finding the slope comes from the word that the line is parallel to this line. Let's call this line A. We're writing an equation of a different line. Let's call our line B. But the original line that we talked about is 2x minus 3y equals 9. And my new line is going to be parallel. Well, I know parallel lines have the same slope. So if I can tell what the slope of this line is, if I can tell what the slope of line A is, that'll give me a hint as to what the slope of my new line, my line B is. Well, since this is 2x minus 3y equals 9, is not in the y equals mx plus b form, I'm going to solve for y to get it in the slope-intercept form. So I'll bring the 2x to the other side. That'll give me negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 9. And then I divide everything by negative 3. So that in simplest form, this becomes y equals, well, a negative over negative we know is positive, so it's 2/3 x. And 9 divided by negative 3 is 9.
Professor.
Yes.
Hi, good morning. So we have an unknown student in this class, right? You willing to, can you remove them? No, Talented, I don't got time for motherfuckers in my class.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you.
So there's a person that don't belong in this class. Can you remove them?
I know. I don't, I'm right now. I'm going to, I said, for this class, I can't do anything. I said, just ignore the chat.
You can't remove
and
class. You're not.
And we will worry about
class.
I will send out a new
Just
passcode
relax
for
and
next
just
time.
ignore the person.
Okay, and for next time, class is over in about 5 minutes, so it doesn't pay to try to do anything now. I'm just gonna, for next time, I will send you a new passcode. But make sure you keep the passcode private. I don't know how somebody found out about our passcode, but next time, I'm as I said, I'm going to change the passcode, and there will be, and please keep it private. Don't give it to anybody, any friends, okay?
Okay, thank you, because I be on time with people kids.
I know, just ignore it. I'm ignoring it. Let me just finish this problem. We've gotten that our line A is y equals 2/3 x minus 3. That's this line put in the slope-intercept form. which means that the slope of this line is 2/3. The slope of my original line is 2/3, but my new line, here's my line B, has to be parallel to this line. So the slope of line B is also going to be 2/3. If it would have said the lines are perpendicular, then I would have had to flip this number over and switch its sign. But it didn't, it said they were parallel. So here's my new line, y equals 2/3 x plus b. And we've done these type of questions before where we replace, in order to find what the b is, we take the point, and the point that it's on, that we know is the point -9, 1, and replace the y by 1, and the x we replace with -9. Okay, and the first thing we have to do is multiply this 2/3 times the -9. Now remember, when you have a whole number and a fraction, put the whole number over 1. And we know when we're multiplying fractions, we multiply the numerators together. So 2 times -9 is -18. And 3 times 1 is 3. And reduce it. -18 over 3 is -6. So the equation becomes 1 equals -6 plus b. And I add 6 to both sides to get the b alone, which gives me that b is equal to 7. So now I know all the facts that I need to know about writing the equation of my line B. Here's my equation. Y equals, my slope is 2/3, so it's 2/3 x, and my b is 7. So I put the original line in y equals mx plus b form to find the slope. Once I have the slope of my old line, I now know what the slope of my new line is, and then I just stick in the point to get the b.
Professor, where you have 1/2, that's times -9, right?
Yes, it was 2/3 times -9.
And then you put it on a fraction is going to be over 1 to multiply it.
Right. The whole number you put over 1, because if you don't, you're going to mix up what's going to be on top and what's on bottom. So anytime one part is a fraction, make everything else a fraction.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so Melanie, Melissa, I'm sorry. Melissa,
Yeah.
do you want me to end this and restart it?
Yeah, that would be nice.
I think that will, so that I'm ending this session, but I'm restarting it immediately. Hopefully that'll get rid of any other person.
You gotta do a different code.
But for next time, I'm gonna try to think of a code that's easy to remember, and I'll send it out to you.
Okay.
Make sure everybody look for a new code because I'm changing it. Okay, but for this, I'm just.
All right. So my question is, does anybody need help?
Does anybody want to stay for Melissa?
Yeah, I could.
Okay, so there seems to be a couple of people. Okay, so I'm going to end this session for everybody, and then I'm going to open it up again, and Melissa will take over. Is that okay?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm ending it.